What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Bearded Brown Show. Today, we have the best episode that we're going to have in quite a while because we're going to completely nerd out today and go over draft guides and tell you Cleveland fans where these guys were before and after. Obviously, you know the aftermath, but we know the before. So there's going to be some crucial points to this. Myself and Dr. Chad are going to talk about it today. There's a lot to get into here, Chad. So do you want to start it off, man?
Yeah. So this is something I always like doing because I think it's I I try to be a little unbiased when it comes to the draft, and it's so hard. I want to get excited, and I think there's a lot to get excited about this year. But I do think it's always kind of funny where like the draft can happen, people can have so many questions on draft day, or people can have like all these ideas of what's going to happen. Then the draft happens, despite who gets picked. I feel like the aftermath is either a bunch of random guys saying, draft analysts or just media saying, I didn't like this draft or I'm grading this draft bad because either the guys the Browns picked didn't match what they had expected or their board, or their idea of like draft grading and draft analysis is the Browns needed a tackle. The Browns didn't draft a tackle. The Browns, didn't succeed in that draft. And I don't like doing that. And then on the Homer side, a lot of the local media will just try to ramp everybody up, whether it's like Cleveland Browns Daily, they're usually pretty well tuned in, but they also are going to bring on guests who are going to talk about the things they liked about the draft, or they're not going to have Dylan Gabriel like hung out to dry by having some analysts come on who like they know didn't like the pick. And you're not going to hear a lot of radio saying like I hated this guy. So I feel like a lot of the Cleveland media skews towards like positivity. The national media skews towards like their own particular opinion, and they're not connected to the Browns. So I love just looking back at some of the major trusted draft guides that were around before the draft, looking at the whole picture of what the Browns got, not the order they picked them or the value at the spot they got picked, but just like who did they add to the team? It's similar to the way I do my draft grading. Also, I don't just say like, "Oh, I love this pick because they got him in the third and he was like a second round grade." That's all great. The moral of the story though is how did you improve your team? Who did you add? And what they're going to do for you. So that's kind of what we're going to do today by literally just reading out whether the grades that the
Did you
Hour
hear that? The
Labs draft
quarterback
guide
train. It's here. The
just
quarterback
go
train is
by.
here.
I didn't hear it this
Chugga,
time.
chugga, chugga, chugga. Oh, maybe StreamYard just better than Stream Labs. Never mind.
Just
Go ahead.
kind of cutting out some of the background noise. Yeah, so Mike's going to cover the Hour Labs draft guide, which is like a draft guide that I feel like's been around for like 30 years, and we know professional teams have referenced it. We know it's in a lot of people's draft rooms and has been for years and years. We had Barry Shuck on, and he knew it immediately as like the draft guide that teams are known for referencing. And then, of course, the biggest name in drafting probably is the Athletic Dane Brugler, and we looked at his guide a lot throughout this process. So we're going to go back. I'm going to cover what Dane Brugler had rated the player in terms of like he rates by round, like this person's a first to second round pick, or this person's a 4/5 round pick, and Mike's draft guide is going to show an actual grade. Like this player is an 8.67, and we can say like, what does that mean? What's the expectation for this player in terms of talent level? And then we're both just going to go into like a little summary of what the guide said about the player. So stick around. We're going to go through every player. The big twist is we put these players in the order of how the draft guide had them ranked, not the order the Browns picked them. So
We're not
as you
saving the
follow
best for
through,
last in a nutshell.
yes. As you follow through, we're going off of like, say for instance, Dane Brugler's draft guide had this guy ranked fourth, and then the next guy on the board that the Browns picked, they had ranked, you know, 40th or 32nd or whatever it might be. That's kind of the order we're going through. So stay tuned, and we're gonna hit each of these picks and then talk a little bit about what's coming up with the Browns next week.
And since we have it already pulled up, we're going to give you the beast rankings as well, just because we have them there. So you and I could let people know what's up with that as we go along. But
Perfect.
yeah, who do you want to start off with? Number one?
Yeah, let's hit it. Let's go with number one.
Number 1 is going to be where'd my notes. I'm sorry. Mason Graham.
Did
Boom.
you forget?
Mason Graham. No, I didn't. I was scrolling down on the notes. My bad. 6'4", 306 pounds, 3-year junior, age 21. Mason Graham out of Michigan. And God, man, what a monster
Yeah,
of a player. As much as I
Yeah,
hate
so to
saying
start
that.
off, we're not really covering what the Browns got out of this trade. I think we all agree, like, as much as we love Travis Hunter, the purpose of this trade was to get as many assets as they could, and they did a good job. But the actual pick itself was number 5. It was Mason Graham. He's defensive tackle 1 on these are all pulled from the Beast from Dane Brugler's draft guide. I never saw him on a draft guide anywhere, and I looked at dozens of big boards and draft guides. I never saw him anything but defensive tackle 1. So he's the first defensive tackle, pretty much unanimously, and and he's also for Dane. He's on his top 100. He was ranked 4th prospect overall. So do you want me to start on the Beast here? Or do you want to go with what Ourlads has to say about him?
Let's start off with the Beast. We can get that one
Okay.
over quick. Obviously, he's number 1, but go ahead.
We'll do a little flippy flopping. So for this one, he was the 4th ranked prospect. The Browns took him at 5. He was a 2-year starter at the school up north. He was a just dominant 3 technique defensive tackle under Wink Martindale's 4-man front. His backfield production doesn't jump off the stat sheets, which we talked about. He's not a sack warrior, but he's arguably the most valuable defensive player in the 2023 national championship team, as gross as that is to say. And he played even better with less talent on the defensive line around him in 2024. So Dane Brugler continues to say he naturally plays from a very low position and consistently wins with leverage throughout his contact. He credits his athletic twitch and understanding of angles to his championship level wrestling background. He needs to develop his efficiency versus double teams, but violently sheds single blocks and plays the piano up and down the line with outstanding chase effort. Overall, Graham is a leverage monster and skillfully destroys blocks with his strength, quickness, motor, and play recognition to make an impact both versus the pass and the run. He projects as a versatile interior presence with the floor of an NFL starter, with a first round grade. And then a couple of his big strengths are he's naturally low pad level. He attacks with above average instincts. He's explosive off the ball, quick feet, agile athleticism, great with stunts and loops, twitchy upper half and great hand motion. And missed tackles were hard to find on any of his 2024 film. He's also increased his football IQ each season and is seen calling out blocking schemes pre-snap regularly. So pretty good praise for him. We can go into the weakness, but the only real standout one is that people say he's got a more of an average body type with like lower than desired length arms, which I think we've all kind of heard throughout the process.
So honestly, everything you just said was almost the exact same thing our lads wrote. They gave him 9.76. So that's pretty huge considering a 9.76. Their grading system goes from 9.99 to 9, and that's a first year starter, except quarterbacks, talent to contribute early and provide impact play. That's about the only other thing that I have that would benefit to that conversation that we just had about Mason Graham.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know the kid is brutal. He could disrupt an offensive line immediately. He's really good with stopping the run. I've witnessed that. We've all witnessed that.
Yeah. I think Ohio State fans probably witnessed that more than anybody, because even if you played him from another team, even if you were a guy from USC or Oregon or wherever, and Michigan played you didn't walk into 2024 with maybe the best running back tandem in all of college football and then watch it get completely shut off by Mason Graham. Right. To go with your Our Lads book, it looks like Our Lads had him as actually the 3rd highest prospect in the entire draft. So they came
Still
off
the
the
projected round one. Yeah, round one.
yeah, they had him as what at 976 was the third highest grade they gave behind Travis Hunter and point 0.03 points behind Abdul Carter. Pretty
I
much
didn't
a
do
team
that much
player.
research on that part of it, but thank you, Chad. You did.
Welcome.
Yes. No. And everybody that's wondering, Sam is not here. Very unfortunate event on Sunday happened. Their dog passed away, Sam and Jen. You guys know Jen. She's been on the draft show as well as helping out with a lot of our social media pages. And Sam's got a big surgery tomorrow, so he's not here. And then Angel's wife's birthday is today, so everybody want to wish her happy birthday. Let her know now. But yeah, let's get back into it. They'll be back next week, hopefully. I like Mason Graham. I like the pick. I'm again with last year with Zach Zinter coming to the Cleveland Browns. I wasn't upset with it. You know, if players could play good, at the end of the day, you have to get that mindset out of your mind. The Michigan Ohio thing, get it out of your mind. Come and play football. I'm not against it. I'm not at all. So you ready to
All
move
right.
along?
Number 2.
Number 2, guys, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry. Shedeur Sanders, standing at 6'2", 212 pounds, 4-year senior, 23 years of age. Round 5, pick number 144 for the Cleveland Browns after we traded. It is what it is. Dr. Chad, go ahead, man.
Yeah, so this is, I mean, pretty easy start. We the way we're looking at it is, just the way these guys fell according to kind of these 2 draft guides. And as you can see up there, Dane Brugler had him as his 34th prospect, and he had a first to second round grade on him. So he does a lot of in between grades. He does first rounds, he does first to second. So he has a between first and second round grade on him. Had him as the 34th player on his big board, and quarterback number 2, which I think again pretty common. Nothing groundbreaking there. So I'm gonna read a quick blurb from his overview in the Beast. 2-year starter at Colorado, Sanders produced at a high level in Pat Shurmur's RPO-based scheme. After finishing 1-11 in 2022, the Buffs had a winning record of 13-11 over the 2 seasons combined in games started by Sanders, who set a school single-season record for passing yards at 4,134, passing touchdowns at 37, and total touchdowns at 41. Although not close to the athlete his father was, Sanders is a controlled, polished passer who gets the ball out accurately in structure when throwing on the move. He's a cool customer and has high completion percentage, reflecting his steady heartbeat. However, he benefited from a high volume of screens and checkdowns, and just 23.7% of his completions in the past 2 seasons were thrown over 10 yards. The chief concern with his college tape is the inconsistent pocket field, which was highlighted by poor protection, and he climbs and maneuvers on some plays and tends to drift or retreat on others, vastly lowering his success rate. Overall, Sanders doesn't have the physical traits to get away with some of these decisions in the NFL, but he's poised and rhythmic, and when he stays true to his skill set, he shows the necessary touch and confidence of an NFL starter. He fits best in a timing-based offense, which is what he'll be trying to fit himself into here in Cleveland. So just some main strengths. He's got polished mechanics. He leads receivers well in their routes. Some of his best throws on tape actually came from a scramble, so he can throw on the run, despite some of the comments on his physical skills and stature. He stands in the face of pressure and will take hits, and he's a willing runner. Some notable weaknesses are that he just has average physical athleticism and arm strength. And
Sounds like me.
and he has, as we all know, a bad ability to needlessly backpedal and move himself out of the pocket. He also holds the ball excessively long, and he takes too many sacks on "you can't take that sack" plays. So
Yeah, exactly. Excuse me. Our lads grade him a 9.52. Obviously, projected to go in the round 1, and
Mm-hmm.
we all kind of expected that. It's kind of crazy how his draft, everything just dropped dramatically within a couple weeks. Everything.
Yeah, I think we'll go into some of the draft grades from Lance Zierlein just to end the show, but
Yeah.
it kind of highlights that some of these guys were a little bit closer to some people than expected, and I think it's pretty obvious that like his skill set on the field is not the reason he's dropped as much as his skill set takes him out of the automatic starter position and some of the other issues he had during the draft process with his interviews and preparedness and just everything that goes along with having him on your team with the potential of him not automatically being good enough to be a starter was something that teams maybe shied away from. And people were shocked by that, but I was not as much. Um, once, a couple teams passed on him, you kind of got the idea that a lot of the rumors pre-draft were probably true and people were unhappy with his presentation during the process, almost as if he didn't really need to go through all the motions because he was a lock somewhere that he
Right.
wasn't. So, our lads have anything interesting besides the grade to add on to that?
They said he's a 4-year starter, spent 2 seasons at Jackson State prior to transferring to Colorado to follow his father, Hall of Fame quarterback and head coach of Deion Sanders, 2-time All-Conference at FBS level, and a 2024 All-American winner of the Jerry Rice Award. Top FCS freshman in 2021, Sanders has been groomed to play quarterback since his early days, and it shows up both on and off the field. He's a field commander who knows the game inside and out. That they say that there's a cleanliness to his game from a mechanical perspective across the board. His polished footwork and his relief pave the path for his excellent accuracy and ball placement at all levels of the defense. I think they meant to say offense, but this might be the version 2 that our lads sent. He is used to the spotlight and can handle pressure and understands all of the jobs that face this franchise that needs to accept the next level. He will not be caught off guard with the demands of the role, but puts the ball where it needs to be, and a receiver-friendly passer who understands defenses. Yes and
So
no.
that struck me immediately though, because a lot of the Our Lads guide is either assuming or going off the notion that because he's his dad's son, because he was raised in football, because he knows what it takes to be a professional athlete, that like everything would be there off the field. And I think that might have been what shook some teams is then the interview processes go bad. He seems unprepared. He seems like he's not putting in the typical amount of effort to show teams like who he is, which, to his, to not bury him, it's just a big mistake on his part. And I think, when you're reading that and half of what they're saying about his positivity is everything off the field, and then you don't see that in the interview process, you probably quickly lose a lot of the feel of why you want to bring him in my opinion.
Right. They do say he has clean mechanics from top to bottom, repeatable footwork, and hip involvement as a passer with a clean pocket. I think he's going to have more of an available clean pocket at the Cleveland Browns with this
For sure.
offensive. This
Yeah.
offensive line is going to be a little bit different for him. He's going to have that time that he relies on because he's trying to make a play happen.
Despite our questions on the offensive line, I mean, when he gets behind it, the big question to me will be much like what we saw with Baker for a while is when he got used to playing in Cleveland with a pretty bad offensive line, he also got used to some bad habits. And then when the line improved, we were seeing the same thing from Deshaun a little bit. He was still rushing out of the pocket or delivering the ball too quickly or not, he kind of was seeing ghosts. So hopefully that didn't get, enlodged into Sanders after having to run for his life for so long that that's what he's used to doing at the sign of pressure. Hopefully he's still comfortable stepping up in the pocket, dodging pressure, but keeping his eyes downfield. So that's all to be seen. He's got a lot of work to do to earn that spot. But again, in the order of the rankings, it looks like he was overall the 34th ranked player on, and again, from your scoring, he must have been a pretty high graded player on Our Lads as well. I don't think I have his number in front of me for Our Lads, but I know it was pretty high.
Yes. He was excuse me. He was a
So,
9.52, and
which
that's a
is
projected starter. So
right.
that's
Projected
huge.
year one starter.
Yes. And
It looks like they have him ranked somewhere close to 20th prospect, which is pretty high. It's on the higher side.
Greg Ray, thank you for joining us, buddy. Our favorite YouTube fan right there. Sorry. I got a bit
Welcome.
overwhelmed. That's it.
Get excited. This is an exciting time.
So I'm going to ask you a question before we move along, Chad.
Sure.
Let me remove that thing. Do you think that him being drafted, there's been a lot of speculation throughout the last 2 weeks. Do you think that with him being drafted in the 5th round could humble him as a somewhat arrogant, cocky?
That is
Because
the
that's what's
question, right?
been saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I think I've heard this from multiple sources that a lot of teams had gotten the impression from him that he was so kind of like overconfident in what he was going to be, almost as if he was just going to walk in and be the starter, and that's not how they had him graded. I heard a lot of professional scouts gave him closer to a second round grade, and he was presenting himself as if he was just entitled to come in and start. And teams were worried if we bring him in, even in the second round, and he's not going to become the starter, can he handle that? And that was some speculation on why he may have fallen even farther, because most teams had him graded closer to a second rounder and didn't know if he could handle coming in and not succeeding as the starter. So for me, I don't know. I don't see a lot from his attitude or demeanor that from what everything that I've watched that makes me think he's going to be easily humbled. But I do think if this was a wake up call for him on how he really needs to present himself in order to win this job, and he keeps the confidence on the field while being a little more humble in the classroom and practice, then yeah, I think he's got what it takes to obviously play really well. He's going to have to be either of these two guys are going to have to be lights out to maintain that job and have the Browns not looking for a first round quarterback next year.
Do you think that
But
prank phone call was humbling?
I don't know. Probably more confusing. I think the
Yeah.
most humbling thing was just watching each round pass as he sat there and realizing like, oh, this is not going to be easy. So we'll see. If he was humbled, then yeah, I think he has his best shot if he had a wake up call there.
All right. Anything else you want to add to the Shador Sanders?
Mm-mm.
We know he's number 12 now, so if that makes anybody happy or mad, that I mean, you lost your number
We'll
to
see.
a
I don't think it. I'm not convinced that the guy who has his number even makes the team. The return specialist who's come into camp every year has not been on the roster by the time the season starts every
right.
year. So that's not something Barry is great at, bringing in like a return specialist or special teamer. So we'll see.
Right.
I'm sure he's going to be digging
Next
for it. He
up,
might even pay for it.
Carl Swessinger, the linebacker
Yeah,
out of
maybe the
UCLA.
most surprising pick of this draft
Six
for me.
6'3", 242 pounds, 4-year junior. He's 22 years old. I mean,
Yeah, we got a
need
couple of young
this.
guys. We got a couple guys older than expected in at quarterback, but or older than we're typically used to seeing at quarterback. But yeah, we did draft some young talent in this draft. So yeah, so he comes next on the list because whereas Sanders was ranked as 34, Schlesinger is ranked here in the draft guide as number 38.
Yeah, you're still there. Just
Oh,
you.
that's
I gave you your
interesting.
time to shine.
Oh, okay. I was like, that's an interesting look. All right. Well, let's go through a little bit of what Dane had to say about him. He's an interesting one because I think Browns fans probably knew nothing about him before this draft because we just weren't keying on linebacker. And I think getting that extra second round pick is what allowed them to make this pick. I still, for the life of me, do not believe they take this guy if they don't trade with the Jaguars and open up the ability to have another second round pick where I think they had a lot of guys probably graded very similarly, and we're going to take a little bit more of a position that we would have expected of need. But here's what Dane had to say about him. He is a one-year starter at UCLA. Schlesinger was the Mike linebacker for for the defense in a 3-3-5 base scheme, and he lined up mostly stacked and playing on all sub packages. He played about 60 defensive snaps per game. He's a former walk-on, was a special teams ace in his first 3 seasons with the Bruins before he emerged this final year um, in 2024 and produced an FBS best 90 solo tackles. His 7.5 per game was the most in FBS for perpetual chase mode. Schlesinger is lightning quick in his key and react processing, and he flies to the football with an innate feel for beating blockers and getting to the spot and navigating box traffic to stay clean. I want to see more of a shock and leverage to his hands when he does take on contact, but he has a high batting average as a tackler, just 10 career starts, but also had double-digit tackles in 9 of them. Overall, Schlesinger is an easy player to appreciate because he's a tractor beam to the ball, a consistent finisher, and as a tackler, he always plays at full speed and close to the play in a blink. He has instincts, demeanor, and coverage talent to be a 4-down NFL starter very early in his career. Pretty glowing remarks. I don't have to go into a lot of the strengths because he hit them pretty well, but he says fast field speed, impressive pursuit ranges, outstanding play recognition, loose joints to allow fluid movement, a knack for keeping himself clean in the box and working down the line, and always alert to the quarterback's eyes while matching up in coverage, understands route concepts, and flashes better blitz timing as he got deeper into the season, which shows that even in this first year as a starter, he just kept developing and improving throughout the year. NFL scouts raved about his effort and his walk-on attitude, which is something that made me laugh because that's all I kept hearing about Baker Mayfield is like he has this attitude of a guy that was a walk-on, so he's never going to let anyone forget it. And although from the quarterback position that did eventually get a little cheesy when you got picked first overall, I do appreciate the lens of a guy who walked on, had to grind to eventually even become a starter, and the second they let him in the game, he just took off. So,
Right.
something to be excited about from Dane Brugler's perspective in the draft guide.
I'm going to start ours off with who the hell is this guy? Because nobody in Cleveland expected us to pick up a linebacker when we did. He was projected to go in round 2 or 3 from our lads. They gave him a grading scale of 8.48. Kid's supposedly a monster. Excuse me. They say 1-year starter, first team All Big Ten, AP first team All America, and Butkus Award finalist in 2024. Undersized but has a solid frame with some room to grow. Was primarily an elite team player in 22 and 23. Finally became a starter in his past season and made the most of the opportunity. He's an extreme athlete. And I don't know if you guys have seen any of this guy's film, but he is an extreme athlete. I couldn't agree more. We don't sit there and look at these guys. A linebacker, which wasn't a position of need, crucially for the Browns, but he fits seamlessly at the Mike position. Instinctive with run fits, showing sudden downhill reactions. Adapted to the diagnosing of blocking schemes with his quick reactions. Often beat blockers to the gap. Avoids most blocks without losing path to the ball. Attacks open windows and makes a lot of plays on the line. Crucial.
Yeah.
This guy is another run stopper. Him and Mason Graham, Myles Garrett, and the whole defensive line is going to be.
And I like these kind of players too because the offensive line is going to be dealing with a really disruptive front. They often have to double or triple Myles and whether that's two blockers and maybe a chip from the tight end. So that clears up his coverage a little bit. What it also does is keep him clean. And we saw the way JOK was able to attack the holes via run stopper and even be able to jet in on the quarterback because of all the attention given to the line. And so I think it sounds like in his description, it's kind of funny because he's gonna be our Mike. We hope eventually to have JOK back as our Will, although we've got a deep enough room, I think, to handle time without him. But I do think a lot of his description is very similar to some of the stuff that JOK did well. And I said this before, you know, people were confused about the pick in the position. We don't know when JOK will be back. A lot of our room is like 1 year veteran guys. This guy was actually picked with a higher amount of compensation than JOK. That absolutely tells you that the Browns believe that this is not only a starter, but possibly looked at him even higher than JOK if that's even realistic. And I heard many people had a grade between a first and second rounder on him, which is believable. Again, we saw his numbers. We saw his numbers from Dane, and he had a first and second round grade for Dane as well. Do you have his Our Lads? What was his score? His grade again?
8.48.
So for people that don't know, we have that listed as a probable starter first year with minimal development time needed. Our Lads basically grades on how impactful of a player is this and how soon will he be a starter, or is he likely a starter, a developmental guy. So yeah, they have him as a probable first year starter with minimal development time. I expect with the group we have out there that he could be starting linebacker sometime this season if he picks it up fast enough.
I agree. Oh. Man, this one is breaking a lot of hearts in Cleveland, but Quinshon Judkins out of Ohio State, 6 foot running back, 221 pounds, 3-year junior, 21 years old. The Browns picked him up, second round, pick 36. He was ranked 60th out of top 100.
Mm-hmm.
Running back 5. Bringing an Ohio State guy back home, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, a younger guy. He's only 21. So we're looking at a guy. First of all, I hope so much that he gets to rookie camp and they have like made him roommates and like locker mates with Mason Graham, because I think that would be the funniest thing ever,
dude.
to just pair the two of them together and just let them just
Chaz
go
the
at
drama
it.
queen. No, I'm kidding.
I love it. I would love to have like one of the best running backs that Mason Graham ever probably faced throughout this year, with certainly the best defensive tackle that Quinshon Judkins may have ever faced, period, in his career. That would be fun for me. So
that is fun. I'm not
yeah.
going to argue.
And they do that kind of stuff. I know that sometimes the teams do that stuff just to gauge reactions, see how guys get along. So
Absolutely.
it'll be fun. It'll be a nice little rivalry for years. I love hearing the Browns players. Although we haven't had a lot from either college, overwhelmingly, I love to hear like the in-season bets about the Ohio State Michigan game. I love that week of like those guys have to wear the other jersey if the other team wins and that kind of stuff. So put me in for it. I don't think Michigan's reign of terror is lasting any longer, and I'm ready to see Ohio State steal some back. So let's get into what Dane actually had to say about Quinshon. So 1-year starter at Ohio State. I think most of our listeners are probably Ohio State fans and know that. He shared the running back duties in Chip Kelly's offense with Travion Henderson. He had one of the best 2-year rushing stretches in SEC history prior to Ohio State while still at Ole Miss. He transferred to Columbus for just the 2024 season and again surpassed 1,000 yards rushing for the 3rd straight year. He joined Ohio State because he wanted to win a national title and help pay off a goal with 3 touchdowns in the championship game victory over Notre Dame. Judkins has quick eyes and footwork to react to blocking and geometry. He also often runs like he is starving and must balance his aggressive style with improved patience before attacking the line of scrimmage. His best traits are his play strength and his run toughness to drop his pads, barrel through heavy contact, and come out the other side. Overall, Judkins isn't as dynamic as some of the other backs in the class, which I think probably is what may have caused some of the discrepancy in the grading and rating. But he is an attitude runner with quickness, vision, and violence to be a productive lead option in an NFL backfield. He can help secure his spot on the depth chart by taking his passing down responsibilities from serviceable up to above average. Dane Brugler gave him a second to third round grade, and then a couple quick strengths and weaknesses. He doesn't have a ton of weaknesses, so I'll hit those first. It says he needs to be a little more decisive, or he tends to be a little more decisive than truly explosive as an athlete. He lacks the getaway gear from pursuit in the open field, and he's sometimes overeager and inconsistent with his pace and patience. Um, he needs to be choosier sometimes with picking lanes, and that's going to be especially relevant in this scheme because he's really going to have to follow his blocks, find that opening, and then when the mobile linemen, make their contact, he's got to have a predetermined lane he's going to hit, and he's got to hit it quick. So, his strengths, on the other hand, he has a lot more. Built. He's a compact back with rocked up quads, and that's from somebody that's 6 foot. So to call somebody kind of like compact when they're that tall, I think is awesome to know that he's also like a barrel of strength coming at you. He displays both balance and run strength, making it a chore for a defender to get him on the ground. He doesn't slow with contact, and he's never had a run that he didn't finish. His vision to find the crease and a cutback is good. He has backfield feet with a plant and go acceleration and immediate momentum. He's aggressive attacker. He has the goal of hitting the lane and hitting the second level. He's a serviceable pass catcher and reliable in the screen game. Terrific ball security who seeks out contact. He only had 1 fumble in the past 2 seasons. And he finished with 50 career touchdowns and became the only player in Ole Miss history with 17 total touchdowns or more in a season. And he did that twice. The only player at Ole Miss to do it, and he doubled down. And he's durable. He didn't miss a game in the past 3 years, which is, you look at those things, and it's easy to see why the Browns could target him as, okay, he is our 3 down, like, starting back. That's what we're going with, and we'll build around him with change of pace guys or Jerome Ford. And at the time, they didn't know what else they'd get. But you could see why they would look at him and say, okay, some people have him 3rd, 4th, 5th, but we have him as 3, and we're taking him now because he fits this scheme so well. And, like, if you're looking at a legacy of following Nick Chubb, this kind of back is probably the kind of back you need in the mix.
I agree. James Frank said he's a skateboarder. I used to be a skateboarder in high school. Not in high school anymore. Now I'm about to be 40 years old, so no more skateboarding for me. But
I hate to exaggerate and say that's some of the balance, but the guy has excellent balance for a big guy. And so,
but I don't want him skateboarding anymore while he's a Brown now. Like, you can just end your skateboarding career there. You're a Cleveland Brown. Let's end that there.
Fair.
Our lads gave him an 8.63. Says junior entry 3-year starter, played at Mississippi for 2 years, where he earned his first team all SEC honors in both 22 and 23. Then transferred to Ohio State last season, where he earned all Big Ten honors. Ideally built from the neck down, jam-packed frame with tree trunk thighs and thinned out ankles, exploded into the national scene as a true freshman, rushing for 1,567 yards, which he is the second most all-time behind Herschel Walker.
Yeah, by the way, if you look at his numbers,
Walker, man.
If you look at his numbers, he has like 1,500 yards like in his first 2 seasons at Ole Miss, and then he actually comes to Ohio State and goes down to somewhere around 1,100. And you have to understand that that's just because Travion Henderson,
they shared runs. That's
so
why Quinshon came to Cleveland.
He's perfect.
I'm sorry, he came to Ohio State.
Yeah, he's perfectly capable of putting up those same Ole Miss numbers at Ohio State, despite everything. And Ole Miss has a competitive schedule. So
yes, but he did say himself in Ole Miss that they ran his ass off. He wanted to split runs with somebody, and that's what they did.
Yeah, they really got everything they could out of him.
Right, and that's why he wanted to come to Ohio State to split some runs.
Yep.
The aggressive runner has no quit in his second effort. He's a complete back who can handle the inside running game and is especially suited for a zone blocking scheme, which we need. I think that is huge for the Cleveland Browns. Zone block.
It's clear all offseason what they're going back to. They're going to take these linemen back to what they did best. They're going to go back to what Kevin Stefanski's offense did best. And they picked the the running back on the board that they thought could do that job the best.
Right. And that's
Not
why I'm
knowing for
glad we got
sure,
two.
yeah, not knowing for sure Nick Chubb, not knowing what they'd get it later, having him in the room when the only guy you have for sure on your roster is Jerome Ford was a very smart move. And again, you
Right.
said he had you again said he had a grade of 8.63.
6-3.
So just to repeat what the same grading as Swessinger is a probable starter his first year, minimal develop time needed. So to me, again, they picked a plug and play guy that could lead the backfield day one if needed. And
But they
without
did
knowing for
say,
sure if Chubb is coming back and expecting on my end that he won't be back, I think it's nice to know that you have a guy in the room that's going to be carrying the ball on first down, and you're not going to have to worry
right.
about 2nd and 14. It's just not he's not going to lose yards.
But just like yours, there is a shortcoming to this. It's
hmm
there's an athleticism shortcoming in the open field. His impact will be strong in condensed areas, which if you look it up on what is it, Sumer Sports, it's a little bit different. His gaps are different, but he can stay on the field all 3 downs, willingly finds contact, and wants to run through the defender. He is late, subtle movement to an open window of extra yards and after contact, breaks tackles with both movement and physicality. Excuse me. I muted my mic because I had a burp. He breaks tackles with both movement and physicality, presses the hole, runs with urgency, with timed cuts and proper anticipation, excellent ball handling and control. Fumbled just once. You and I already talked about that. From his last 500 touches, he's a try-hard blocker who alters his approach, tends to freelance and gap concepts, needs to be more disciplined and play with the scheme. Does not have speed to outrun angles of 2nd and 3rd defenders. Will get caught from behind. Does not add explosive element.
And so
But
those are
that's-
two. I mean, and that's basically the difference between him and somebody like Nick Chubb is Nick Chubb came into the league with just really, really good vision and patience right away. He was good at just slowing down for the blockers and then hitting the hole. And the second thing was he has breakaway speed, which is why
Hit that
like
comment. Hit that comment real quick.
he has breakaway speed, and if he basically like gets free, he's running away from you. James Frank says that's so crazy to still be able to get those numbers sharing the backfield with Henderson. Yeah, he can surely do that with Sampson. So yeah, he went over 1,000 yards sharing the backfield with another guy that also went in that same round. I saw them flip flopped as prospects, and I heard from some analysts basically the reality was who's in your room now, what kind of scheme do you run, and what do you need your running back to do? And if it's a zone blocking scheme, you're probably looking at Quinshon Judkins. And if you're looking for a different kind of back, you're probably looking at Travion Henderson. And so I actually liked Henderson just a notch better. And I just loved him for so long at Ohio State. But the second they picked him, I got it immediately. He fits exactly what they seemed to want to go back to doing. So I'm there with it.
Yes.
And again, he was the 60th player on Dane Brugler's top 100. Sounds like he was even higher again in the Our Lads guide based on his grade. So
And obviously Travion Henderson went a little bit higher, but that's where you got to look at injury prone. So how do you bite that bullet?
yep. So we're sticking on the running back train because almost everywhere I looked, these two guys were rated right next to each other. So the big shocker I thought in this draft was that multiple rounds later, essentially what two full rounds later, you were able to bring in Dylan Sampson, which I'll just put it this way. If anybody had even cued me to the idea that we had a chance of grabbing Dylan Sampson where we did, which was absurd to me, I would have felt even better about getting Judkins early because part of what you're getting with Travion Henderson, you're absolutely getting out of Dylan Sampson. So let's go ahead through these numbers here. So he was running back 6, as we said. Judkins was the beast was Dane Brugler's running back 5. He's on Dane Brugler's big board, and the Browns were able to nab him in the 4th round at pick 126. So the 5'8", 200-pound third-year junior is only 20 years old. So this is, I think, our youngest pickup of the draft. So again, at only 20 years, just an incredible talent with a lot of room to grow. So here's what Dane Brugler had to say about him. He's a 1-year starter at Tennessee. Sampson was a prolific runner in head coach Josh Heupel's up-tempo multiple run scheme, exclusively a one-back set out of the gun. So a little different. That makes the assessment or the evaluation of him probably a little bit tougher. After serving as the backup behind Jalen Wright, who, if you don't know, he's the second running back right now behind Devon Achane in Miami for the Dolphins, and I think he's an incredibly talented player. So knowing that Sampson was not starting because Jalen Wright was actually makes me feel a little bit better. And he was behind Jabari Smalls for 2 seasons. He emerged last year as the SEC Offensive Player of the Year, averaging 131.5 rushing yards per game in the SEC. Also setting the school records for rushing yards at 1491 and touchdowns at 22 in the season. That's just incredible to me. Although it looks chaotic at times when he plays in overdrive, Sampson runs with urgent speed, getting through the first wave, and his sharp lateral cuts open up the field. He isn't powerful, but he runs with outstanding competitiveness and averaged a touchdown every 12 carries in college. Overall, Sampson is undersized by NFL standards at 5'8", 200 pounds, but his inconsistent tempo tends to get him in a little bit of trouble. He is equal parts fast, physical, and slippery, though, as a runner, and he shows promise as a pass catcher as well. He can have a Tony Pollard-like immediate impact in an NFL backfield. His grade for rounds was a grade 2nd to 3rd round grade. We'll hit just a couple quick strengths and weaknesses. His weaknesses were he has a very muscular frame, but he's a little lighter than you desire for a lead back. He's not a crazy downhill or powerful short distance runner, and he could use better anticipation hitting the hole. Are some of his weaknesses. His strengths are he loves to play fast. He's electric with the ball in his hand. He can turn the corner and race sideline to sideline. He has a natural feel for following pullers and counter runs. He'll press zone runs a little bit with his light feet and then able to shake laterally. Think Alvin Kamara.
Ah,
accelerates
I
into
hope so.
second. Yeah,
Sorry.
we can only wish. We can only wish.
Yeah.
Accelerates into second level contact with balance and is able to spin or move outside of defenders. A big thing I've heard from him is he has basically all the moves. Somebody was saying, like, if there's a video game running back in this draft, it's him because he can cut, he can spin, he just has all of those like video game movement abilities. He's got a very high energy personality and he's a great voice and a strong leader. He has a nose for the paint. He scored 36 touchdowns in 35 games. And that includes a lot where he wasn't the starter. And he essentially carried the Vols offense in 2024, breaking the single season rushing touchdown record that has stood there for 95 years.
Ah,
And on to our
wow.
lads. Pretty glowing reviews again.
Wow.
That's why I like to read these later, because this is all written before the draft in the evaluation process. If people are picking this stuff out after the draft, sometimes it feels like they're just looking for all the positives and they're ignoring the negatives. And this one, we're going to cover some of the negatives, but highlight the positives because it's not just like Homer talk. It's completely independent of opinion from somebody that had no idea where he was going or where he would get picked.
Hit that comment.
Can he hurdle a guy backwards though? Okay, so probably not. If he had Barkley level ability, no chance we get him where we got him. But yes,
insane.
that is hilarious. I don't even know if that's a video game move. I feel like Barkley that's a
Yeah,
Barkley alone move is like I can do a half spin move jump.
all that for like 2 or 3 more yards. It's crucial at the end. But our lads graded him at 8.73. He is 10 points higher than Quinshon Judkins. Um, projected
That
to
is
go in
crazy
round
to
1
me.
or
And
2.
that is, by the way, that is not the only guide. I remember specifically that the PFF draft guide, which we're not covering today, also had Dylan Sampson graded just slightly higher, and I think one spot higher than Quinshon Judkins, which is nuts to think that we were able to bring both of them into the room.
Right. I'm cool with it. But they say junior entry, 1-year starter, first team all SEC last year, in addition to being named the Conference Offensive Player of the Year and All American. Set program single season records in rushing yards and touchdowns. The high school track star that had to wait his turn as a backup rotational piece, it is easy to see that the play style in his game has a swift looseness. I hate the trains in my house. I'm sorry. To his lower body
I
that
don't even hear 'em.
creates. I do. It creates looseness to his body that creates missed tackles and explosive plays in the open field. He could flip up and switch and alter his weight distribution to change directions with ease. There are a lot of options that he could use to evade tacklers. Once he hits open space, Top Gear can get away from him and almost all defenders, which I hope so. Ran behind a gap blocking scheme more than all but one back nationally in 2024. There are a lot of things that this offense could do with an explosive back like this. Abrupt stop and go ability, burst, and acceleration to an elite top speed will create big plays and at the next level. Slippery to tacklers with an array of moves, will run behind his pads and display enough desire and toughness to run between the tackles. He's going to adapt to the gap blocking, lacks power. His lacks are kind of just, he lacks power to push piles.
Yeah.
Which Nick Chubb was able to do.
Yeah, but what's interesting though is like you look at this and you're like, well, that's maybe why some teams passed on him early because if you don't have that back on your team, that could be who you're drafting first because you are looking for more of your first and second down back often, which is what I think the Browns did here. You're looking for a back that can do maybe is not explosive, but can carry more of the load. You're looking for more of your bell cow type back. And that's why I think this pairing is so interesting. Like they say basically you look at his weaknesses and they're some of Quinshon Judkins' strengths. So you don't worry about him because you're not going to put him in those positions.
Yeah,
You're
but
not
are you
gonna
going to
put him
do
out at
two running backs in the backfield? Is that what you're going to do? I mean, because his other
No, I
lack
mean you
is
could, but I guess
he,
if you're saying like he doesn't have a lot of power in short yardage, well, when it's 3rd and 1 and you're going to go up the middle, that's not the back you're going to have out there.
right.
Just like
But
you
if
wouldn't
they
have put Jerome
do,
Ford out there when you had Nick Chubb, right? You're going to put somebody else out there.
but if you do, you can kind of create a havoc on so the everybody on the field did not know what's going to happen. But they said
Yep.
he looks lost in pass protection. Really makes a difference on contact. Was not asked to do much as a receiver. Lacks feel and timing as a route runner. Needs a better upper body and grip strength to secure the ball. He ran for 1,491 yards, 5.8 yards per carry with 22 touchdowns. I'm not saying he's not a promising running back, and I'm not saying that he can't come here and learn and make himself better as a pass blocker, whatever.
Yeah, and that's
whatever
what
this
he's
team
going to need
needs.
to do because his skill set matches a 3rd down back well. And of course, Judkins is capable of being a 3 down back. So if it's 3rd and 2, sure. But if it's 3rd and 7, you're probably going to want a back who can block for you and potentially go out for a reception. And you want it to be him. And even though he's slight in frame, he's lower. So he just needs to put on some pounds, build some strength, be able to handle that. And he has all the potential to be a pass catching 3rd down back, but I think he's going to be utilized more as a change of pace back than he will be just a 3rd down back, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
But I like the negatives because, like I said, they're sort of opposite of Judkins and his positives too. So he's just the pairing of these two reminds me in my head so much of looking at the way Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson were able to complement each other. And if the Browns can pull off something like that, oh my gosh, the run game is going to be so much fun to watch again.
Do you think you'll see two running backs in the backfield this year? I know it's not a normal Stefanski scheme, but
No, I honestly don't, but you didn't see it at Ohio State either, really. So I could
right.
just see
Then
them
that's what I'm saying.
switching
They
and
took
swapping.
turns. Right.
No, I can see that. I know for years, some people, I remember Mary Kay was staunchly on having Chubb and Hunt out there for a similar reason because they just have a little bit different game and it just never happened. So I don't know if you have two high level backs that good and you don't get them out there together. I just don't see much time really
Right.
happen. But there could be
No, I agree.
packages. You could be close to the goal line and be like, we're going to throw these two guys out there and just let the defense try to figure out where this ball is going. Do you
Right.
crush the middle of the line or do you have to stay spread out because somebody as good as Samson will just literally run around you? So,
Right. Exactly. I'm gonna give you some screen time here for a second. We're gonna jump right into Harold Fannin.
yeah, we are on to was this the fifth of our the fifth of our or sixth of our seventh picks?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is the sixth of our seven picks. Um, Harold Fannin Jr., tight end number 6, according to Dane Brugler, was number 82 out of Dane Brugler's big board. The 6'3", 240-pound third year junior is just barely older than uh, Dylan Sampson at 20 years old also. So that's just another young guy we got. And I'm pretty excited to be able to bring this much young talent who's ready to contribute pretty early in their career. He was a 2-year starter at Bowling Green. Fannin played the A tight end position for this pro style spread offense, splitting his snaps between inline and wing 38%, slot 32%, which I would expect to see some of that for the Browns as well. I think that's what will get him on the field a little earlier. And he actually lined up wide 26% of the time, which just I think highlights the fact that this is just a pass catcher um, coming out at the tight end position. He was in an offense designed to weaponize the tight end. Fannin transitioned from a high school safety and had arguably the greatest tight end season in FBS history in 2024, setting the single season record for catches at 117, yards at 1,555, and became the first consensus All-American in Bowling Green history. And that's just the school's second All-American in any sport. Everybody in Cleveland is pretty familiar with Bowling Green and the level of football school that it is. Probably not, but I think everybody will be excited to see the brown and orange uniform translate over to the Browns. With his strong hands and urgent athleticism, Fannin is his best as a pass catcher, and he shows unique feel for creating as the ball carrier. He's still very young, and it shows, especially in his blocking and route running. But overall, Fannin is somewhat an unconventional prospect. He's awkwardly athletic with a stiff, restricted movement, which I remember Dane bringing up in the last like 3 or 4 months, like 10 times. He hates the way he runs. And somebody posted on the internet, went viral. Somebody posted on like Twitter, and I saw it everywhere, was, "Why does Harold Fannin look like he's running through mud?" And he really does have the most awkward run ever, but Dane hated it. Um, but he does play with straight line explosiveness, outstanding ball tracking skills, and threatening run after catch ability. He fits in best as a hybrid H and F tight end and offers 3 down potential. So he is the kind of guy that could be H back here and there. Like, he's not a blocker, but if you remember when we had, oh, what was his name? The tight end that we drafted in
Kellen
like the fourth.
Winslow.
No, the guy we drafted in the 4th round like 4 years ago, and he stuck with us for just his rookie contract, and then we let him go. I'm blank on his name right now. If anybody in the comments knows who I'm talking about, let me know. But they lined him up in the backfield every so often um, for a couple plays. So I just expect this is a much more dynamic pass catching version. So I look at this as the way he was graded. He had, according to Dane, he had a where is his? Oh, he had a 3rd round grade. So the Browns drafted him at 67. Dane Brugler had him as a 3rd round grade, which is weird to see when you see tight end 6. You're expecting those guys going like the 5th or 6th round sometimes because the tight end classes tend to be like top
Well,
heavy with 1 or 2 good guys.
that's this guy stepping on buttons. Sorry.
Meow. Meow.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you see tight
Did you
end
hear
6 and
that?
a lot like this. Yeah. A lot
Sorry.
like this running back class, like you see these numbers like, oh, he's running back 6 or he's tight end 6, and you have to realize this was a very strong class. So being 6th is not necessarily what it would be in 2023 or 2022. Um, like looking at last year's class for tight end, you had Brock Bowers, and then you had just this really steep fall off before there were other guys of that level, and that was not the case this year. There's just a lot of guys who can do it. If he can come in and be anything like what I wanted out of Isaiah Likely in
Gary
Baltimore,
Barnage. That is it. Gary Barnage. Wow.
no, that's not it. That's not who
It
I was
is
thinking of.
Gary Barn.
We
Oh no,
literally
Gary
drafted him
Barnage
like
is
3 or
older.
4 years ago. Andrew Barry drafted him. He just got drafted and we let him go.
But
That's
yeah,
who I was
Barnage
thinking of.
is like 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was a while back, but I don't know why I
Anyways,
can't. I'm so blank on it, but it's I'm not gonna dwell on it. It's stupid. My point was he lined up there sometimes, so in Kevin's offense, he likes to go 2 tight ends sometimes, and he'll sometimes line up a tight end like in the backfield. So
now I gotta look it
um,
up. I gotta figure out who it is.
you look it up. I'll read some of these strengths and weaknesses. So again, he has very clear weaknesses to me, but he doesn't have many. So his weaknesses, and I love the
Oh,
way Dane
Harrison
Brugler.
Bryant.
Harrison
No,
Bryant, thank
but
you.
we had Harrison Bryant longer than a year.
Yeah, I said we had him just for his rookie contract.
Oh yeah, his whole
4 years.
rookie contract. I got you. All right,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, we kept him for his rookie contract, then we let him walk, which was
Harrison Bryant.
rare. Yes, James Harrison Bryant was the guy that they lined in the backfield. Don't you
Thank you.
question that. You're fine, Mike. No, so here's his weaknesses. I think it's hilarious the way he phrased it. So he lacks desired size. He's duck-footed, often runs with his feet pointed outward, which dulls his route breaking. His route movement appears stiff and rigid. It's literally just he's awkward. Like he runs funny, he's stiff, he looks weird. Is all of like Dane's weaknesses. Then his strengths are straight line explosiveness, plays with urgency, uses his speed to challenge defenses vertically and horizontally, great run after catch, body quickness, manipulates space. Uh, he has a physical stiff arm and great run balance. He secures catches with his hands and he's comfortable playing through contact. He has a nice range as a pooler on sweeps and as a lead blocker. Um, he owns every receiving record in Bowling Green history, and he's dominant against his competition. The problem was his competition was the MAC, and as a guy that came from Ohio University, I know that that is not the same level of football. But it does make me wonder because he was a safety for so long and only switched to tight end and did that for 2 years and was probably told, like, "You're ready to come out." If not, I do imagine he probably would have just considered transferring into a bigger school, and showing something against bigger competition. The good news is where he played kind of allowed us to get him, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, the kid from Canton, Ohio, Bowling Green,
Mhm.
graded a 6.87 on our lads.
Which is an ascending skill player with ascending production, but will need pro level physical development.
And from the looks of his videos as well, I think he'll not have a problem doing that.
Again, he's only
Um,
20 years old and he's only played tight end 2 years. To me, that means he has probably as much room to develop as any single person we drafted. He's just brand new to this position, and those physical weirdness in his movement is not going to go away. But also, there's some thought in my
what
head of
other tight ends don't have weird physical movements though? That's the
it. Just
question.
I almost think in my head is it probably makes him awkward to gauge on some routes and picking your angles because he runs funny, and I've seen him run, and he's going so much faster than he looks like he should be going. I
Yes.
almost think like when I played football a million years ago, like I remember sometimes when people move awkwardly or have like a weird long stride, they're so hard to judge your angles because like you think they're going slower than they go. So you angle at them, and then by the time you get there, they are just gone. And I almost wonder if some of his awkwardness makes people not sure how to tackle him or not sure how to gauge him. And I wonder if he can use that to his advantage to some degree in the NFL.
And it's funny because he ran the 40 in 4.71 seconds.
Yeah, he's fast enough. He's for sure fast enough.
Right. He 10 touchdowns, 65 yards rushing, 7.2 yards per carry.
Nice.
And a touchdown while running. I mean, the kid shows some promise. He was projected to go in round 3 or 4, which we picked him up in 3.
Yep.
It's promising. I would say I like the Blake White kid that we have now.
Yep. And he might stick around. He's not this kind of tight end.
Right, exactly. So they're two different. Yeah, you gotta weigh your options.
One of the things I said, like he's new to this position. He is just a 2-year starter. He had 623 yards with 14 yards per catch a year ago, and then this past year he had 1,555 yards and 13 yards per catch. So like he's just developing so much.
Real quick, Ulterior Motorsports and Podcast Network says, so how far are the Browns away from playoff contention? That's up to them. That's up to the quarterback situation. That's up to the coaching. That is up to not us.
They have very few pure weaknesses. I think it comes down to what can these quarterbacks in the quarterback room do? Because 2 years ago, when they got decent quarterback play from, shockingly, Deshaun Watson, who went 5-1, and from the 4-1 record of Joe Flacco when he came in, they were a playoff team. They had another win by somebody, DTR or somebody in that mix, but essentially they were a playoff team when they got good quarterback play with a very similar core. And although there have been changes on the roster, they have about the same level of skill player, I think, right now, and the same level of defense as they had back then. I think it all comes down to, do they have a playoff level quarterback on this roster right now? If so, they're probably ready soon. If not, they're going to be looking for one next year.
Yeah, James says, let's look at reality. Maybe this next year. That's a possibility. I would say realistically in the next year or two.
Mm-hmm. This year would be a surprise.
Realistic, right?
This year will be a surprise, but again, the quarterbacks have to surprise us. Kenny Pickett has a winning record, but he's not been good. Shedeur Sanders looks like he could be a starting caliber quarterback for a team, but his process was a mess. And then Dillon Gabriel may be the kind of wild card in this, where like he has what it takes to be that level quarterback, but his size gives him just this innate disadvantage that people don't like.
You ready for this? There, Dr. Chad.
And while we are on the subject of Dillon Gabriel, let's do it. Oh, I gave myself the hiccups.
Why not fitting?
It's
because you're drinking a sour beer.
Yeah, it's a very good one, but it is not chuggable.
So Dillon Gabriel, quarterback number 9, not ranked in top 100. Cleveland Browns picked him in the 3rd round, pick 94. 5'11", which seems to be the biggest issue as of right now for all of us Cleveland fans. 205 pounds, 6-year senior, which gives him plenty of knowledge to not only come from the NCAA into the NFL. He's 24 years old, so I think he's a little bit smarter, and I'm not opposed to this move. I'm really not. His height, which Sam and I brought up on the last show, there's multiple quarterbacks that have actually done big things in the NFL being shorter.
Yeah.
So it's possible.
Yeah, and looking at some of the comments that are made too, I'll jump around a little bit differently on him. He was all the way down as quarterback 9, like we said, for the R Lads guide, and for the Beast guide. So I'll go quickly through his overview, and then I want to hit his weaknesses, because I find it really interesting every time somebody talks about his weaknesses. And he was a guy I talked about a lot before the draft, but I had talked about him in the context of, it didn't seem like teams liked him, but it seems like he could be a fit here. Maybe if the Browns went quarterback early or decided to pass on quarterback altogether in the 4th or 5th or 6th round, if he's sitting there, maybe they take him because maybe he is a flyer for doing something like what Russell Wilson did, or maybe he just, if he doesn't accomplish that, he could be a very long-term backup, being able to maximize his skills in Cleveland, doing exactly what this offense wants him to do. So he's a 1-year starter at Oregon. He was a productive passer in a balanced spread scheme. After 3 seasons at UCF and then transferring up 2 seasons at Oklahoma, he went on to lead the Ducks to a 13-1 record and the 2024 Big Ten championship. He won the Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year and finished 3rd in the Heisman voting. With 6 years of college football and 63 starts under his belt, he set the FBS record for 189 total touchdowns, 155 passing, 33 rushing, which I think is probably an underrated topic of his, and 1 receiving, which
I
is
think
kind
he
of
had
fun.
more. I think he had more rushing yards than that. I was looking some stuff up the other day, and everything was kind of misconstrued. It looked like even with Shador Sanders, his rushing yards, both these quarterbacks' rushing yards are off. I believe
Well,
it
the
said
rushing
Shador
yards too
Sanders
are
had
calculated.
negative.
Yeah, because his sacks count as negative rushing yards. If
Yeah,
you
I
get
get that,
sacked
but against
for a 9-year loss, so he took so many sacks that I can believe that actually. But yeah, he obviously doesn't mean his rushing ability is nil. So he's the number 2 all-time passer in college history, but I try to put some of those away because he played so much longer than most guys get a chance to play. I don't care about those records so much as I care about the experience, and I more just care about what can he do against what competition. So they call him a point guard style quarterback with the ability to scan the pocket and deliver accurate balls with a twitchy release. Although he's often too willing to bypass tight window throws and settle for checkdowns, he isn't an electric athlete, but he's very poised and very competent. He plays with exceptional feel for navigating pressure and to create second chance plays. Overall, Gabriel looks a bit small in the pocket and has some limitations downfield, but he's a rhythm passer with football instincts and mature intangibles to overcome his any physical shortcomings. He's a savvy lefty with a quick release. He has a lot of similarities to Tua Tagovailoa and has a fighting chance to earn a backup spot right away in the NFL. He had a 4th round grade, and I thought the thing that I like hitting is his weaknesses. Number 1, short stature. Um, struggles to add zip with just his arm. Um, he's a uh, he does quick game and check downs. May have inflated his completion percentage a little bit, and he will turn 25 during his rookie year. And I believe, where is that? Oh, I don't see it. Um, oh yeah, he's 24, and so he will turn 25. He'll turn 25 like in December or January. So he will turn 25 his rookie year, but not till pretty much the year's over. Oh, his birthday is, yeah, December 28th. So he'll make it through this season as a 24-year-old. So he's not as old as somebody like Tyler Shuck for having as much experience and playing as much as he did, which is interesting to me. But
that's
again,
an upside.
you look at these weaknesses, and it's like, okay, so it's basically so similar to a lot of what you hear from Sanders is like he doesn't have the biggest zip on his arm, and he doesn't have like the physical eliteness that you look for. And the other thing is just he has short stature. Everywhere I looked on him, everybody's like, oh yeah, he does a lot of things really well. He does a lot of things really well, but he doesn't have an elite arm and he's short. And I'm like, if that I guess I just became surprised that, like, with those being his major negatives on every single eval, people had him graded so low because I thought we had gotten a little bit over the height barrier, and I know it's still relevant. Like, some of these smaller guys struggle with batted down passes, or if they're not very good at finding the throwing lanes or dropping back, they could struggle. But I did think that was interesting that, like, I expected to see so many more negatives in his game other than, like, he doesn't have an elite arm and he's 5'11". So
Yeah. Honestly, our lads graded him a 4.97.
Yeah.
They say a 6-year starter who had his 2021 season cut short 3 games due to injury, so I could see that being an issue. The all-time leader in career starts, 63, and second all-time leading passer in the FBS, finished third in the 2024 Heisman Trophy voting, in addition to winning the Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year award and All-America honor. He spent 3 seasons at Central Florida, 2 at Oklahoma, and 1 at Oregon. Did you say Oregon or Oregon? I got to clear this
Oregon.
up right now. All right, cool. Spent 3
Let's see
seasons
real
at Central Florida. Yeah. He's a proven playmaker who plays with a point guard style. Oh, same. This is exactly what you
Very
just read.
similar.
Yeah. So I'm not
Very
even going to read
similar.
this. There's no
Some
reason.
of them, yeah, you don't have to repeat it, but some of them have been like that, and that's why I said I like these draft guides because, like, Dane Brugler has nothing to do with these. Now, some do talk to scouts and things like that in front offices, so it's interesting to hear. But yeah, pretty similar.
Rahul says Mary Kay has dropped more boxers than Mike Tyson.
Oh, Mary Kay. Oh, Mary Kay. I love her.
3 different colleges in 6 years. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to admit this right now. 5'11". You're a left-handed quarterback. We haven't had one since 1984 on the Cleveland Browns. Not one left-handed quarterback since 1984. There's not many of them.
There's only like 2 in the league right now.
So that could change the outlook on the way defenses play us. Can you throw in Shador or Joe Flacco and everything to change it up a little bit? I mean,
it'll be interesting for the center because it's going to be a little bit of a different feel. So for your grade for him, essentially, the Our Lads draft guide is saying that he is a prospect who produces with limitations, which sounds right, and he's got a deficiency in measurables and athleticism, which is what we're talking about. Now, the one thing I think is if you're a good enough passer and you really learn to play smart, and I mean, I'm not saying he'll ever get to this, but like that's why you have to be a Drew Brees level of brilliant, accurate, hardworking. You got to live in the film. Like when you have physical limitations, you really have to just be able to understand the game better than everybody. And he's going to have to do that to succeed. However, as a backup, if he's going to try to challenge to be the starter, but as a backup, I don't think the physical limitations become that big of a deal because you're not counting on him on a game-to-game basis, and people aren't going to get used to him.
GW4 is left-handed. No, he wasn't. Deshaun Watson.
Tua is though. Tua is left-handed.
Deshaun Watson's not left-handed. I guess at the end of all this, Chad, I know we talked about it a little bit last week, but overall, what would you grade this Cleveland Browns draft?
I don't know. It's so hard. For me, draft grades are all depending on what you're trying to grade. Like, did they fill needs? If that's what you grade on, and like I said, that's what a lot of people grade on. They doubled up on some stuff, but we had major needs at quarterback, defensive line, running back, safety, and depth needs at linebacker, tight end, and offensive tackle. Out of those, and wide receiver, sorry. So out of those 8 things, they covered 1, doubled up at 2, doubled up at 3, got 4, and got 5. So they covered 5 of those 8 things in the draft. And you're not going to get them all because the guys that are going to be able to start for you and play for you aren't going to be available in every round. That's just not how it works. Like I said, I fully believe if Josh Simmons or even Connerly were on the board at 33, I think they might not go Carson Schlesinger, or maybe they go with him at 36 and they wait a little longer for a different running back. But the way the board fell, they got 2 running backs. They have, at worst, they found their backup quarterback and potentially a starter, which is all you can ask for out of a draft if you're the Browns. They got a tight end who is a developmental guy behind Njoku, but can probably contribute this year. Both their running backs will play and contribute this year. Mason Graham's probably their best defensive lineman already.
Oh yeah.
In the interior, and then Carson Schlesinger will probably be one of your starting linebackers this year. So if you're grading based on like, did you get players on your team who are going to contribute immediately and in the long term? Yeah, they probably got an A for that. I probably say they got a B minus for filling their needs because they went. It looks like they drafted more best available than needs with this year's draft and like value guys that fell to them. And so I'd say if you're looking at like filling holes, B minus. If you're looking at adding players who are NFL players, they may have done that better than any other team in this draft.
Cool. Before we end this, I'm gonna share you guys a little bit of Mike Renner that gives the Browns inside draft. Should we just play it? Just play it, yeah, right?
With the 94th pick in the third round, the Cleveland Browns select Oregon quarterback Dillon Gabriel. He was my quarterback 3. I love this guy's tape. The only thing really dislike about him, he's a shade under 5'11". He's one of the shortest quarterbacks that you'll see, one of the shortest quarterbacks in the NFL when he hits the field, but he's also the most experienced quarterback to ever enter the NFL draft. That's right, he started 63 games in college, the most ever. He started since his true freshman year in high school and has the Hawaii State passing record. So this guy is an accomplished quarterback. He's got a plus arm. You know, he may be short, he may be small, but he does not have a small arm. He has an arm that can push the ball down the football field. He's a great deep ball thrower, and he doesn't make too many mistakes with the football. He will be limited by that size, but I think he went to a perfect spot with Kevin Stefanski where it's going to be a lot of play action, a lot of deep dropbacks, giving him that ability to see over the line of scrimmage. I think there's a good chance he starts year 1 for this Browns team, given what they have at quarterback. For that reason, it's an A grade for me.
Reckless speculation by Mike Renner.
Mike Renner probably had him the highest. And like I said, that's a little bit of a take in retrospect, looking at like, okay, we got Gabriel. Let's find out why they might have drafted him where they did. It came out this week, I think through Nathan Zagura, that the Browns said they had Dillon Gabriel as their quarterback 2 after Cam Ward in the draft. And it makes it more believable when you hear Mike Renner say, well, I had him 3. I had Cam Ward, Sanders, and then Dillon Gabriel. So it makes it a little less shocking.
Done.
It makes it a little less shocking and makes it more believable that the Browns themselves, knowing what he said about him and how he evaluates him, easily could have had him as their quarterback 2 or 3. So, again, I wanted to get a little more into him because so many people have talked pretty much Shador and he gets so overlooked. And essentially, it's almost like it's just because he's 5'11". So
for sure. But there's also other speculation going on this week where Dillon Gabriel actually sung to the birds, and
I love this.
He told Cleveland he told Cleveland. Here, just watch it.
We're just gonna
do that. We're gonna just play this.
This is where all the boys would get together, at least in the neighborhood. Wanted to talk story or hang out, check out the view. That bird back there.
What are they saying?
Cleveland Browns, 94. That's what he said.
Okay.
Cleveland Browns.
With the 94th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Dillon Gabriel.
Oh my God.
Hey man, how we doing?
Amazing now.
We're pumped for you. We're pumped for your family.
For sure.
Give your mom a hug for me.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you, Coach. We love you. We're so excited.
Oh, love you guys.
So it's at that point where Cleveland Browns fans are like, "What in the hell are
we were
you
all
guys
shocked.
doing?"
They were all like, "Yes, nailed it, got our guy." It almost gives the impression that they literally like told him like, "Hey, we've got a lot of things we got to get out of this draft, but if you're sitting there in the third round, we're going to take you." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to the Browns." God, they knew. None of us had a clue. None of us had a clue. None of the analysts had a clue. Nobody mocked that there. Even Mike Renner, who had him as their quarterback number 3, I feel like nobody saw that coming. So I feel like the fact that everybody was so shook by the unexpected nature of that pick threw them off to like what that pick really means. And I still believe from that call, like, give your mama a hug. Like, were they hanging out with the family at some point and we just, didn't know it? Well, rumors came out that I guess they were at some point up in Oregon spending time with him and his family. and people wrote it off as a visit with Tyler Shook, who was also there at the time. And it turns
That's the
out
guy I had on my mock. My mock got so jacked this year, dude. So did you. Everybody on the show was.
I had Tyler Shook and Gabriel were two guys I talked about the whole time because I said I don't believe the Browns are taking somebody in the first round. I thought the whole time that all three of Ward, Sanders, and potentially even Dart. Dart would go in the first round, and so I was talking a ton about Gabriel and Shook. And then right before the draft, it was still there. People started getting high on Milrow, and I drank that Kool-Aid. And then what made it the worst was then they made that trade in the first round, and I just backed off and was like, they're done with quarterback. If they wanted quarterback, they would have never traded for a first round next year. If they were going quarterback, they would have just taken Hunter. And they totally threw me off because they
that
took
doesn't
two.
piss me off though. Now we have to hope the Jaguars suck. Sam said Dylan the Bird Whisperer Gabriel.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
That's a
man,
special
that's
skill.
incredible.
I hope he can talk to seagulls too, because he's not going to be
James,
around.
look at James' comment.
He's not going to be around those anymore. There you go.
I like that. That's good.
Does that mean he can beat the Ravens all the time? Oh
Yeah.
man, if he can come in and beat the Ravens, people will be on board immediately.
Yes, we just got to play them in Cleveland so the sun faces their face mask and balls bounce right off their head, and there's no picks delivered from our quarterbacks.
Well, that
yes.
pretty much covers the draft. I think it's like I said, I think it's a cool way to cover it. I get sick of looking at like just what value do they get. I like to look at it and say, who did they get that's actually planning on playing? And I think coming out of a draft with a future first rounder of unknown value next year, plus getting 7 guys in your draft, which is a very normal amount. They traded away so many picks because you can't come out of a draft with 11 guys. People say like throw as many darts as you can, but then you never get to see them through training camp. Guys get cut before they ever get a chance, and you just ended up wasting the picks. And so I like narrowing it down to getting the guys you want. And they came out of this draft, like I said, either Gabriel or Shador could end up starters for this team, and that is more massive than any other pick they made. A starting quarterback is huge. But even if one or both of them are just NFL backups and they got to go to the quarterback well next year, Mason Graham, I expect to play for this team. Swessinger, I expect to play for this team. Judkins and Sampson, I expect to play for this team. And Fannin, I expect to contribute early and eventually develop into a major player for this team. That is a lot of guys that you pulled out of this draft who could contribute. And I don't end many drafts because I'm not the optimist type who ends a draft thinking that our like 6th round receiver is going to actually be a playmaker contributor. Those are such long shots. But I actually
Very
left
true.
the draft feeling like Fannin, Sampson, Judkins, Swessinger, and Graham are 5 guys who will be playing for this team and contributing sooner than later. And then the next 2, they took flyers on quarterbacks because the position's so valuable, and both of them are so perfect for this type of system that if one of them is the starter or backup, or if both of those things happen, they played this draft brilliantly if that ends up being the case. But
one thing I want to touch base on,
play.
Juan Thornhill telling people to burn his Cleveland Browns jerseys. Yeah, they might do that. Go ahead and burn your Cleveland Browns jerseys, just like you got burnt in the backfield all year round, you fucking clown.
What, the Juan Thornton Browns
Juan
jersey?
Thornhill.
Does Juan Thornhill think anyone has a Juan Thornhill jersey?
Oh, there's a guy that's got one. He said, take that number 1 off. Let me know. Burn it. Burn that mother effer. I'll get you a 22 jersey from the black and yellow. Yeah, dude. You're going to get
Give me
burned
a
in the
break.
backfield again this year as a Pittsburgh Steelers.
I'm just excited to hear he has one fan who bought his jersey because I can't imagine having picked up a Juan Thornhill jersey at any point. I'm not sure I would have even taken that off the rack for free.
He probably Googled a Juan Thornhill jersey and found this one fan that posted a picture of him.
Yeah.
Dude, get over yourself, man. You're not what you used to be.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right.
Sorry to burst your bubble there, buddy. But yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure he ever was what he used to be. I think he got carried a little bit in Kansas City, and I honestly wish he'd show up. I was vocally disappointed about moving on from Josh Johnson for him at the time. And Josh Johnson also underperformed, but our defense and our coordinator was just such a different thing at that time
Right.
And I just felt like we let him walk because of his poor performance and brought in somebody that I just didn't think was even as good of a player as him. So I would have loved to see if Johnson
You know
was
what I
able
love to
do
see
it,
more though
stayed.
is Martin Emerson Jr. take that number 1 because that guy actually
I
shows
saw
up
that.
and
Yeah.
plays games. There's a lot of number
Gotta-
changes this year, so everybody make sure you check
Yeah.
them out.
And we'll see. Don't buy any jerseys yet. Like, guys, you're looking at these guys who are so likely to still change their jerseys if a guy gets cut. So I have the type of friends sometimes who are like, I'm buying that jersey, I'm getting it today, and they end up with like a Dylan Gabriel 5 jersey, and in 3 weeks he's like, all right, I changed it to 8. You're like,
Yeah.
uh-oh.
Oh, that's just like Ralph Holly. I bought his 63 jersey, and he's like, that could change. I'm going to change that at camp. And I'm like, that's
Yeah, a
fine,
lot
dude.
of
I
them
got your
wanna change
OG number coming to Cleveland, so that's cool. But yeah, I am not entirely sure if we're going to do a show this Saturday. It all depends on how Sam feels after his surgery. It all depends on if Chad wants to wake up because he's 3 hours behind us. We could maybe do a later show if you want to join us later.
I know
it
those
is
guys are always like, yeah, we're doing a show at 9 a.m. Like,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah,
10.
I'll see you
It's
at
10. So it's
6
7
a.m.
your
my
time.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm still gonna have to get up earlier than that.
But we're not sure yet if we're going to do a show. Sam's got a surgery tomorrow morning. We're going to check on that. Everybody sending some prayers his way. And if
my
we do a later
gosh.
show, Chad, if you want to join, that'd be cool.
James just mentioned Deontay Johnson and Judy smoking Thornhill, and it just made me smile because I forgot Deontay Johnson is gonna have 2 revenge games against the Steelers this year for letting him go.
Oh, yeah, this comment. Yeah.
I like Deontay Johnson. I think I would have rather kept Elijah Moore because I think he's still ascending, but I think Deontay Johnson's a more productive player. I
think
don't know.
I'd
If we
been
do a
cool to
later
bring
time, I might
Elijah
be able
here.
to do it. If we do it later time, I might be able to do it this weekend, Mike, but I'm just not sure. I'll message you.
I got you. Yeah, I'll talk to Sam. We'll get that
James
all
already
figured
got a Judkins jersey. Dang.
out.
You're a risk taker.
Judkins going to make the team. Come on. Hands down. That dude's going to make if there's no return of Nick Chubb, Judkins will be number 1 or number 2 running back. But yeah.
I think he's in line for a big year. And again, I guess I won't write off Chubb permanently. He's penciled off right now. I would love to turn that around. Maybe if they squeeze that extra money, out of more places than just Ford, they can find a way to bring him back. I'm sure they would love to have him back. Like, what a veteran to have in the room and not have to just throw the other guys into it. But
Yep. But we went over as normal because me and Chad suck at time. But until then, we will see you guys next time. Thank you tonight for joining us on this awesome draft guide episode. It was kind of cool to get that out of the way. And we should be done with draft talk. Chad's favorite. Chad talk.
Love
Or
the
Chad
draft.
talk.
I love it.
Draft talk. Chad draft talk. That's what I
I'll
should
find a
named
way to
this
keep bringing
episode.
it up. I'll find a way to keep bringing
Right.
it up. This
He will
was the
too.
major ending to the draft season. So,
Yes. But until then,
by the way,
we'll
we
see you
tried
guys.
to get you one last thing. We tried to get you some updates on the undrafted free agents, but bad news. Even the draft guides didn't have a lot to say about any of them. So let's just hope somebody's a diamond in the rough, but keep your expectations low for the guys coming in off the street.
Yeah, undrafted free agents. We didn't get to those tonight, but it's rare that they're going to show up on a roster anyways. So we will see. We'll probably bring them up next week or
Every
Yeah,
once in
whatever,
a while,
we'll
one
figure it
sneaks by, we'll hope. But yeah, and that concludes today's final draft fun.
until then,
guys, see you
Chad.
about-
I'm gonna give you the honors tonight to take Angel's spot.
Go Browns!
Later, guys.